And again, this is the state of waste, past to date, and the possibilities of the future with John Peralta.
Well, thank you very much, Susan. I appreciate that. Let me get my screen set up here. All right, I'm extra excited because this is my first Zoom presentation. So you all get to see the beginning, hopefully of not too many more. The first thing that I put up there is some information of interest. I will be going over this at the end of the presentation, but it's a little bit non-traditional, so I thought I'd just get it up there for those of you that have a pen and paper and wanted to collect some information. We have our website there. We also have our waste and recycling info line, as well as some information on Recycling Right Wisconsin, as well as my email address, and then our site supervisor, Dave Hagenbusher, as well. All right, so state of waste, past, today, and possibilities of the future. So we're going to take a fun trip through garbology, and if you don't know much about waste, you'll have a little bit more understanding by the end of this, hopefully. So first, we'll talk about where we're at. We are between Ringle, Wisconsin, and Hatley, Wisconsin, in Marathon County. We are in between County Highway Q and County Highway Y, and that's our address. Beautiful, beautiful piece of property, as you can see overhead. And we have, in this picture, you can see our Area A, our first landfill, Area B, our second landfill, and then out here, back then, that was the beginning of Bluebird, which is the landfill that we're filling currently. So first, we'll talk about the history of waste. There's been, as you can see, that was obviously before OSHA, way before we had the technology. We had actual horsepower back then. But as you can see, there was a lot of waste has been a problem for a long time. And from the beginning of humans, waste has been an issue. And over the history of waste, there was basically a few different ways to take care of it. There was burning of garbage, which many of you may have grown up in the country. I know I grew up in a small town of Gays Mills, and even at one point growing up, the town burned their garbage. There was an area where they just burned it. And with that, there was bad toxins that would be released in the air from burning. And as we got into plastics, those toxins became even worse. Not only CO2, but these horrible things called dioxins and things that were causing cancer in studies. The other big way back in the day was just dumping it. This is Dead Horse Bay out in New York. And back in the day, out in this Dead Horse Bay, it was an old rendering area. There was this rendering factory there that would take old dead animals and turn them into different things. Like, I think glue was one of the things that they made in different pastes. But what they decided was they wanted to build out this peninsula, and they thought they could build that out with garbage. So they actually used a lot of trash to build a peninsula, but not understanding how erosion works, all that soil eroded away, and now you can see the garbage. It's pretty disgusting and sad, but lots of great glass. If you're ever in that New York area, the glass there is phenomenal. Lots of old bottles that are very cool. There then became our Superfund sites. America realized that we had an issue with this waste. There was companies ranging from chemical companies all the way to the local dry cleaners that were just disposing of their waste by burying it in large barrels, to the point that the United States government said, hey, we need to do something about these sites. And they created a fund for these Superfund sites, and so that they can begin remediating, because they realized how bad this was for the environment. hurting the water, especially hurting the water, which is a big part of what we protect at Marathon County Solid Waste. So when we protect the water, it starts with construction. That's a big part of it all. And as you can see, this is one of our, when we just began our newest edition. We have an Area 5A now on Bluebird, and this is the beginning. We'll go over the construction, the engineering of it shortly, but a lot of care is taken to make sure that we are protecting that water, to make sure that we're not hurting the environment around us. Now, in addition to the construction, we have landfill gas that's created. What's landfill gas? It's the breakdown of all the garbage. It emits gas as it breaks down. And mostly it's methane, which is that CH4, CO2, carbon dioxide, and H2S, which is hydrogen sulfide. And these gases, they all build up in the landfill, and it needs to go somewhere. And because of the high concentration of the natural gas, it's a usable resource for us. So what we do is we actually pipe it out. You can see here, this is the flare that emits any overflow of the gas, anything that's left over. But what we do is we send this gas to a third party that's off-site. Well, actually, they're right on site. They rent an area, and they use it for their machinery that they have over there. So we have a contract with them. So this is really one of the first resources that's kind of this long-term resource that we're able to collect, and that's this landfill gas. We have a condensate knockout that was installed as well because of all the heat of the landfill. In all of these gas pipes, there's a lot of water that builds up and water vapor. And so we need these condensate knockouts so that the water can go somewhere as that gas flows. So currently we have 30 acres of the active landfill, and that's a lot of gas that we're able to connect over all that acreage. So I was talking a little bit earlier about our expansion. This is our crew of a bunch of the equipment that our contractors have brought in. All of this expansion was paid for by our own money that we make at the landfill from all of our tipping fees. We are a enterprise fund, so we don't end up costing the county any money. So that's a positive, but one of the few. I think it's us, as well as I think like the airport, the county airport, is another enterprise fund. So our expansion, as we continue, we're able to budget that money for future expansions. So we have a liner installation. That's our guy Chuck. He's kind of a little bit of a jokester. We like to have fun and play. He likes to play jokes on the liner crew whenever the liner crew comes down, usually on a random day, construction day. He might be seen in the morning, showing up super early in the morning before all the construction crews get there. And then, yeah, it's always a fun sight when the construction crews meet Chuck. But as you can see in the background, this is some of our liner. Chuck's leaning against a huge roll of liner. And these liners are, thousands of pounds. They're very, very heavy. They have to have special equipment just to bring in the liner. And as you can see here, this is when they're lining the bottom of the landfill. So here's some of that engineering that I was talking about. As you can see here, here's the gas extraction pipes. Those are put in fairly early once we get the waste here. But the engineering involved is we have this area down here, which we dig down basically to a good building layer, which out here in our Marathon County area, at our site in particular, it's very sandy, very rocky, so it's ideal. And then what we do is we have this 4 foot of compacted clay, and it has to be to a certain specific clay for those of you that don't know, is one of the most impermeable soils that we have. So that's the reason why we use that, so that we can so that it blocks all the liquid from going out. Then what we do is we have this liner that's put in, and it's a 6 mil liner. So it's about a little less than 1/8 of an inch, probably about a 1/16 of an inch thick, and it's basically a hard piece of rubber, and that's what we put on top of the clay. And then after that, we have our gravel that we put in, very large gravel. And during this time, we have these leachate collection pipes that are put into the gravel. So the leachate, when you see the word leachate, that's basically, think of it as the garbage juice. That's the biggest thing that we're trying to keep out of the water system. It's definitely the most environmentally harmful of the resources that we have. But yes, I did say resource, because that leachate actually, paper mills are able to use leachate because of the microbes and the bugs that are in the leachate that actually breaks down the pulp really well, and it helps them with one of the process of making paper. So once again, not only do we have the gas, but we also have our leachate as well. That's a resource. So the piping's created, the gravel's laid, and then we're ready to put trash on the gravel. We're ready to start putting that waste in. Once we get the waste, we basically do the opposite as we did here. We just flip it the other way around. We'll have the top of the waste, and then we'll put the gravel on top of it, followed by the geomembrane, or I'm sorry, the compacted clay, and then the geomembrane layer, that's that 6 mil. The compacted clay, I believe, is 2 feet on top, and then it ends up with a bunch of topsoil and growing material, and then that's how the landfill is capped. So let's talk about kind of what we put in there, that waste section of that engineering part. We have 500 to 1,000 tons of waste a day. And that's just, it's huge. It's like millions of pounds of waste that we have every single day. Here's our big compactors. They're ginormous. This kind of gives you an idea. Here's a couple of our operators, Ryan and Justin. As you can see, these are just huge tires that have these metal teeth, and all they do is crunch and compact the waste. The numbers that we're looking for is we're trying to fit a ton of waste in a cubic yard. So if you imagine a cubic yard that, for instance, I don't know, you can get like a cubic yard of soil. We're trying to get a ton of waste within that cubic yard. So it's pretty impressive, the compaction that these machines are able to do. Over here, we have a picture of when the first municipal garbage that we had going into that construction area that you had seen, that we had seen the process of the construction with the liner. And then here's Jessica, one of our operators, who also got to be there that day and do some of the push out and begin compacting the waste. So other than compacting the waste, so we have this garbage that's in the middle. We need to protect the environment, and I keep coming back to that, the importance of this position, of protecting, of being able to manage this waste, and that is keeping that leachate out of the groundwater. As you can see here, we got Eric and Dave. They're checking stuff out. This is in a low end of our landfill that had filled up with a lot of water. As you can see here, here's some leachate. So what we do is we have all of our leachate with the leachate piping that we have throughout. We have it all put into tanks, and then we have it shipped out by our tankers that we have here. And they go to different wastewater treatment plants where they're able to treat it and get it disposed of properly. So the leachate's very important for us to protect that. And so this is what happens when you don't have landfills. This is a perfect example, and I like using this as, you know, the eye-opening truth of if we did not have landfills, if landfills were not managed, and the importance of all this. As I said kind of at the beginning, through the history of time, waste has been an issue. When I was doing some research for this, I was reading about how, you know, even the Mayans had landfills that they would bury things, and then there would be explosions because they didn't know the proper way for putting waste together, and they didn't understand, you know, the hazards that would come with commingling the wrong ingredients, which is why we have things like regulations on what things can go in and out of the landfill. So seeing this, it's a really good example of what happens when there isn't waste management, and how important it is that really we're keeping your streets clean. So here's some other things that we do to protect the environment. It's kind of not thought of a whole lot, but it's a big thing that helps the spirit of those regulations that came in the past to make sure that people were disposing of things properly. So we help out some of our area industries, or our area businesses like Line Tech, Crystal Finishing, construction debris from many different construction projects throughout Marathon County and neighboring counties, contaminated soils whenever there's a contaminated soil incident, Quick Trip as they've been rebuilding, as well as the R Store. And we give that good rate to help out. We're able to, you know, subsidize the waste in a way that these area businesses are able to have that cost-effective dumping in the legal way. So it's very important. Another very important thing is our litter picking. It's another way that we protect the environment. Usually it's a big thing that we do we usually have a couple times a year where we do major litter picks, but yeah, we have all the fencing around our property, and we have windscreens that we're able to move around. But even those, they get full of plastic and paper, and so we're able to go and pick all that stuff up. We've had record-setting wind days where we've had to get additional help. As you can see, we have a bunch of young children with us, just kind of some kiddos that came from the Ideas charter school. They came out when we had some huge, like 50-mile-an-hour winds, and they came out to help. Also, we do the highway cleanup every year. Like I said, we're between Highway Q and Highway Y. While we do that, that's our area for pickup. So we also contribute that way to make sure that we're keeping the environment clean around us. Some other services that we provide is we are at the fair. So if you've been to the Valley Fair or County Fair, then you may have seen our booth. We usually give out some pretty cool swag like funnels and jar openers and magnets with the right way to recycle. And we also do tours. We do all types of tours. If you call us, we don't have a problem setting up a tour for you. All types of groups, children's groups to, you know, adult groups, county members, different clubs. It's a great service that we provide to the community. In addition to that, we also have our household hazardous waste program. We have a grant that we write to help us subsidize that. So it is a free service to all Marathon County residents. So if you have hazardous waste, old bottles of chemicals in the back, or, you know, if you bought a new, you know, piece of property and it has a bunch of stuff you're not sure what it is, we take care of all that. And like I said, it's free to all Marathon County residents. And I believe for Lincoln County will give you a rebate up to $75 if you bring your receipt to the county. They will reimburse you. And then the other big part about our hazardous waste program, like I said, we take a lot of different items. We do not take any explosives or gunpowder, and we do not take nuclear devices. However, if you do have those and you have a problem getting rid of them, you can give us a call. With the black powder, it is the Sheriff's Department. Just give you a spoiler alert on that. But our hazardous waste program, take care of it. Another cool part about it, our services is we have our metal recycling. It's $10 for appliances. If it's scrap metal, it's free. Also, we have tire recycling. As you see, there's some prices there for regular tires as well as tractor tires. And then also cardboard and recycling is also free. So if you miss your recycling day, you're able to come and drop off your recycling at our site for free. TV, stereos, computers, there's different prices for all those. Just to give you an idea, for instance, TVs, if it's greater than, or if it's less than 36 inches, it's $20. Over the 36 inches, it's $25. And then fridges, air conditioners, and dehumidifiers, also $10. Those are other appliances. We also have bulbs and battery recycling. Battery recycling is free. The fluorescent light bulbs, it is 60 cents for the standard CFL like this or any of these. Or if it's 4 foot or less, it's 60 cents, $1.25 it is if it's over 4 foot. Also, we have antifreeze and used oil. These are also free services. These are also self-serve services. So you would just pull up on our scale and go in and say, just like any of our other free services, that you were just there to use our antifreeze and used oil, and you can take all your used oil and antifreeze there. Then we have our reuse shelf, which it's part of the hazardous waste program. When there's a item that comes in that is new or not used and it's sealed, then we put it back up on the shelf. And this is also available to any of the county residents. Feel free to stop by. There's all types of items such as insecticides to automotives to cleaning and spray paint as well. So what can we do is the big question here. As I said, we kind of just went over the reuse shelf, and that's another example of what we're doing at Marathon County Solid Waste to contribute back by reusing some of these items. But here's some ideas what the consumers can do. So like, for instance, this metal chair, we talk about source reduction, right? This metal chair, it might be, maybe it costs a little bit more, but it's a lot more durable than these, I mean, especially if you have kids. If you have a bunch of kids running around, or maybe you got a couple friends that are big kids and they're, they get a little rowdy. This $15 chair is probably going to break, and you're probably going to buy 3 of them compared to this metal chair. So just thinking things like that, purchasing the product that may last a little bit longer, get a little bit more use out of it. That's a big part. Not only that, of course, a lot of people have changed a lot of different habits here, but reusing the bags versus the grocery bags, which these trends have caught on, and they've been great. Same with using your own reusable cup versus the disposable, which now with COVID going on, really these things are getting harder and harder to use. So thinking about other ways, or some other ways that we can reuse. So for recycling, here's kind of an idea of what the different recycling things are and what they can be used for. Plastic bottles, can be turned into sleeping bags and backpacks and carpets. And then glass bottles, of course, everything from construction items like fiberglass to just using them as new bottles. So here's some, resources that we are taking and turning them into other resources. With the metal can, being able to use that and get that longevity out of that metal, that hard material. And then there's resource recovery. As you can see here, there's a couple different types of resource recovery, but taking something and being able to get the main resource out of it and just completely completely change its form. Here we have food scraps and composting, and totally changing these food scraps all the way back to soil. Taking all these different types of paper and colors of paper, and turning them back into pulp, so that you can make something, grabbing that fiber out of there, to reuse it, to get that recovery of that resource. So speaking of those resources, we also have compost supplies. We have our home compost bin. This is a very old program that we've had here at Marathon County. I believe it's over 20 years the department has participated in this compost supplies. So if you didn't know, we've been doing it for a while, and over 1,500 bins have been sold in Marathon County, and over 15,000 collected. So fun fact, we've sold a lot of compost supplies. So if you're interested in a yard container or a kitchen pail, we're the place to get those. All right, so talking about wish cycling. Wish cycling, a lot of these items, especially this item, not so much the diapers. The diapers a lot of people have come to realize that diapers are not recyclable, but the clothing basket, that is something that I've seen a lot in the recycling, which isn't recyclable. It's a hard, rigid plastic. People thinking that cords could go in recycling because there's the amount of metal that's in the cords. Maybe you've heard of the phrase national sword. At one time, we were shipping a lot of our recycling overseas to places like China. And then our resources we were sending were very contaminated. Like, for instance, there was a lot of the clothes baskets and the wires and diapers that weren't supposed to be recycled that we were sending over to China, and they would just take it. Well, they decided they didn't want to take it anymore, and so it became the national sword that cut us off the recycling, and then it's kind of it's put our country with the opportunity of figuring out how we could capitalize on our own resources and use more of our resources in our own country. And so it has become a lot more standardized. And the wish cycling is something that now things like Recycle Right Wisconsin and Marathon County Solid Waste and Recycling Connections, and all of us are pushing to inform everyone so that they understand that it is a little bit different. And just because your styrofoam cup says there's a 6 on it and it's recyclable, well, it's not in our counties. It's not, so understanding that. So Recycle Right, I kind of name dropped them a little bit or a couple times throughout this presentation. Here's some of their information. I also have it at the end, but in case you didn't have your notes before and you want to start taking some info, here's also our recycling info line. But as you can see, like I was talking about Recycle Right Wisconsin, here's a great infograph that they had set up showing what things to recycle, what things you'd put in your curbside, and what things you would not put in your curbside. And all of these things are items that you could take to us at Marathon County Solid Waste Department. So all of these items are things that you would bring to us. And these are the things for your curbside. All right. So we've been talking a little bit about curbside, but let's get off the curb. Let's get out into nature. So there are some awesome recreational opportunities on our site, and we're going to talk about some of them. So I don't know if there's any snowshoers out there, but we got some great snowshoe trails, some walking trails, and of course, we're going to start with the best, our bike trails. So here's our welcome center. If you come into our landfill, before our gate actually is the welcome center for the bike trails, the mountain bike trails that we have. And so the Wani Walk, or the We Walk Wisconsin mountain bike, I forgot what the acronym is at the moment, but they've had a partnership with Marathon County to come in and create a bunch of different bike trails. And these bike trails are trails that can be used by the community. There is a $5 fee that goes to them taking care of the trails and making sure the trails are all bike ready. But these biking trails are really awesome. They're created in different legs. So if you wanted to do the full 10 miles, you could. But as you can see from this map here, there is a couple different areas, a couple different legs of this entire course. And they're very well marked. And with this, these trails, they are set up in a way so that there's different obstacles that you're able to go around. Like for instance, as you can see, this here is what you would call a flow trail, where basically you would be able to glide around here without using a whole lot of pedaling and just kind of flow through that area. And the way this mountain bike trail is created, there's a lot of ups and downs where you're able to go down in a way that you're going fast enough where it kind of helps you up the next hill. I've gone on this trail a couple times with my boys, and yeah, they're fun, really fun trails, amazing trails, world-class trails. It's amazing that we have this right next door to our landfill. It's really a great recreational resource. We also have our Bluebird Nest Box Trail. We have in our efforts to help contribute not only to the community but also to the environment, we have set up Bluebird Nest throughout this specific trail that we mow and take care of. We repair the bird nest or the bird boxes every year. We do counts on eggs and keep records. And really, it's cool to see how many bluebirds we do have in that area, and other birds that we have because of these boxes that we maintain. So it's a great trail to hike during the day. Throughout the spring through the fall. Obviously, the fall, we're coming to that time where it's going to be beautiful out there as the leaves turn. But also, they are excellent snowshoe trails. I kind of mentioned that earlier, how we have some really good, nice rolling hills, and it's a neat little path if you are into snowshoeing or cross-country skiing. So, we've kind of come through it all. We talked about what we put into this mound here. This is area B that we've partially capped. We have as you can see off in the distance here, we have the gas well, the top of the gas well that's creating the vacuum to pull the gas out of this section of the landfill. You can see it's covered. A lot of times in the summer, this is one of the most beautiful hillsides in Wisconsin. It's just the amount of vegetative growth in Wisconsin wildflowers are just amazing. I think I counted 8 colors one day, from oranges to purples to yellows to whites. It's just a beautiful hillside that was engineered with waste. And what I like when we give tours, we always go up to the top of B, and I think it has to be the second or third highest peak in the county. It has to be. I mean, Dave said we could see 3 counties from up there. It's huge how high up. And when we bring, it's really cool when we bring up the junior high kids or the younger kids up there, and they all try to see their house or really get a view of how great it is. And I remember we had this 5th and 6th grade group that we had up there, and they're all pointing at their houses or where it would be, and I said, well, look around, isn't this beautiful? Could you tell that we're on garbage? And they said, well, I said, no. I said, do you smell any garbage? They said, no. And I said, this, in 30 years, once this place is closed up and they cap it in 30 years, they're going to want to, sell this possibly, and seeing that it's a landfill, I'm sure they'd give you a good deal for it. I said, what would you do if you had this, if you were to go buy this piece of property real cheap, and then you could put whatever you wanted on it, and what would you do? And one of the kids was saying how, oh, wow, it would be great if I was able to do like a zip line or something, or or maybe a motocross thing or something. That would be awesome if we had like a motocross dirt bike thing or a huge zip line park. And one kid was saying, oh, I want a huge Ferris wheel at the top of the hill, something where I could just see everywhere, see 5 counties from the top of the hill. And then I remember there was a little girl that was talking about how she wanted to have a restaurant. She was like, what if we did developments? What if we had one of those restaurants like in Seattle where they, the top turns around and you could eat your dinner and just look at all the different counties of this, 3 different counties while you ate your dinner at the top of my restaurant, and one boy said, what if we had a water park? In the water park, you go through the middle of the garbage and then you could see the garbage. You could have a glass tube where you could see all the years of garbage from the different years and the different times. And one little girl said, I want to make this a resort. There's all these nice ponds. And that day they had seen a lot of different deer and turkey and the different wildlife we had. She said, I would love to make this a big hunting resort. That would just be awesome. So maybe future developments could be in the landfill, possibly. This is a big thing now. There are already many dog parks and soccer. They've created soccer arenas. I know there's a soccer field in Madison. I know that there's just right now that engineering, as these landfills begin to close, engineering is becoming post-closure. Engineering is becoming a big thing, real big thing. All right, so with that, here's once again that information of interest. I wanted to put that out there for a little bit and give you all the time to write that down. And yeah, it's been great. Thank you all for joining here and hearing. In about 30 seconds, or whenever Susan wants, we can go to Q&A.
Yeah, there has been a question. Thanks so much, John. This is really great. I think it's really important to realize how much more the solid waste department is more than just a landfill. And I think that's something that I've learned through the years of, how do we get the word out about this? How do people know about it? And this is just one of the ways we're doing it, especially during COVID. We can't get out into the community. We can't go to the fair to have those booths. So I really appreciate you taking the time and helping people realize that we're a real resource. The landfill or the solid waste department really is about the protection of our resources and managing it properly. I mean, we've got a lot of waste coming through, and how do we manage it responsibly? And I know you all do that. There's a question that came in that asked, how long are the Bluebird and snowshoe trails out there?
How long are they out there, or how long have they been out there?
Like how long are the trails? I'm thinking distance wise. They're wondering if I were to go hiking on the Bluebird Trail, is that like a loop of 1 mile, or is it a longer distance? Do you have a sense on that?
Yeah, I've driven it with the lawnmower. I think it's about, I want to say between a 1/4 mile and a 1/2 mile. There is a part where basically you can go across the road and come back sooner. So I think that might be like a 1/4 mile, but it might be up to a 1/2 mile. I'll see if I could text the crew and give an answer on my phone a friend here.
Yeah, and I was looking, I think it's also important to know that the Ice Age Trail goes right along the solid waste department property, and so it is connected to the Ice Age Trail, which allows for a longer hiking for those that are interested in that. I also had another question, because I answer the calls on the info line sometimes, about used oil. So I know we talked about antifreeze and we talked about used oil, but what about used gasoline? Does that also go in the same bit, or is that accepted in a different stream, or what do we do with used oil or used gasoline?
Yeah, so the used gasoline, that's just that would just be, we have a separate barrel that we put that in. Yeah, okay. Gasoline, kerosene, diesel fuel, If it's mostly gasoline oil mix, we can take that. But yeah, that's in a completely separate area from the the used oil. And if you're a Marathon County resident, it's no charge for that. But we bulk it in 55-gallon containers. So
Okay.
if you wanted your container back, then we would just dump it immediately right there and get you your container back. And
Great. Okay, well, if you want to close your presentation, we'll just go into a little gallery view. If folks would like to stay on, ask some questions, John and I will be here to answer any questions. You can put them in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself. So if you have any further questions you'd like to ask for John this evening, please do so by either unmuting yourself. Feel free to put your video on, or you do not have to by any means. But if you have a question, go ahead and ask in the chat, or unmute yourself and ask those questions. Now is a great time while you have the experts here.
I do have an answer for you. The Bluebird Trail, and I'm glad I got this answered, is maybe 3+ miles. So that cut across that I was talking about, that's probably at the 1/4 mile.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be a nice snowshoe too.
Yeah.
So.
Cool.
Well, thank you so much, John. Again, we will stay on if you have any further questions, if you'd like to stop and chat with John or myself. I will remind you that this is a presentation that is part of a series we're offering once a month. Our next presentation is going to be October 13th. I'm going to help you with preparing your compost for preparing for winter. How do we continue composting throughout the winter so we can divert those food scraps without completely overfilling our compost bin? So I'm going to talk about that on October 13th, so join us for that. On November 10th, we're going to be celebrating America Recycles Day with Karen Sieg. She's going to help us understand ways we can recycle, get us to understand what exactly can go in our curbside bin, what items can be recycled but not in the curbside, and what do we do with some of those hard to recycle items, and when does it have to just go in the trash bin? So she's going to help us get those answers. And then right before the holidays in December, we're going to talk about great ideas for the holidays, how to reduce waste during this time of great consumerism in our lives. So that's going to be the final talk in December. I hope you can join us for one of those later this fall. Thanks again for coming tonight. We appreciate you all being here. It has been recorded, and so that will be available on the website as soon as well.